everyone, it's Melanie here, and I thought I'd do a video today about something that I've been thinking about a lot, like the kind of wisdom you find in unlikely places, the kind of wisdom that sort of feels true to your soul, but that shows up in places where you don't really expect it to be showing up. And in this one, we're focusing on wisdom found in mystery novels. I read an awful lot of mysteries. I find them relaxing and almost meditative. They are a cure-all. Had a bad day, read a mystery. Had a good day, read a mystery. Feeling stressed, read a mystery. Wanting to relax, read a mystery. It's a cure-all, and I read an awful lot of them, and I always have read a lot of mysteries ever since I was a little girl, when I came across the first book that I ever read by Enid Blyton, which was The Famous Five, and I was hooked on mysteries, have loved them ever since. So you might hear my washing machine, by the way, singing the sound of its people in a minute. Let's just ignore it. I certainly will. Let's dive straight in. Why I've been pondering the subject was because I've recently been listening to the Thursday Murder Club books. I have listened to 3 of them so far, and I'm waiting for the 4th for my hold in the library to come in. So that might be a while because it's not been out that long. So, at the moment it says January 2025. But knowing the library, usually it comes quicker than that. So I think it probably will be August or September by the time I get to it, which is fine. There's plenty of other things to read. But as I was listening to them, I was struck how often there was some wisdom in there. And, some really kind of wise little side remarks, or sometimes even in the focus of it all. Obviously, it is about friendship and working together and not being forgotten in old age, all these kind of things. But there's this scene in one of the books between Donna and Ibrahim, 2 of the characters in the book. Donna is a young police officer and Ibrahim is a retired psychiatrist. And as they talk, he says to her that life is about climbing the mountain, and when she asks him, it's like, how do I know what's up the mountain? He says, nobody ever knows, that's why you have to climb up there to find out. And they arrived at this situation because she feels a little bit lost and a little bit depressed, and he says to her, oh, you're like, you've climbed the mountain and now you're at the bottom of another mountain. And that can sometimes feel quite scary and quite hard, because you think, well, I climbed a mountain, why should I climb another mountain? And life is just about climbing another mountain. There's always another mountain to climb. And the moment we stop climbing the mountains is the moments when we feel sad and lost. And I thought that was so profound, and it is scary to climb those mountains, right? Because we never know what's up there. Recently been talking to a friend who is getting back out in the dating game after a divorce, and she was saying how scared she was of it, and I can totally understand. But that's her mountain to climb right now. That's just what you do. And I found that's just so apt, because we sometimes forget that it is utterly normal to be worried and frightened about the mountain, but you have to go up the mountain anyway. And then the other thing that he says in that conversation that I found utterly profound, and something that I'm certainly not always very good at doing, and that is, in life you have to learn to count the good days. Yeah, it's so easy to get stuck down and dragged down by a bad day. I had an absolutely horrendous day yesterday, but there was also good moments in it, and I realized that now looking back at it. But it was really, really hard. Was meant to have an appointment, went on the bus to go to the appointment, and arrived there. I'm always early for everything, so I was there a good 20 minutes before the appointment. And then the appointment time came, the person didn't show up. I waited for half an hour, texted them, called them, no reply. So I went back home. Then I decided that I'll take the car for the oil change. And so I drive to Halford's, ginormous traffic jam, no way of getting out of it. You might as well just surrender. You know, a journey that is meant to take 10 minutes took nearly 50 minutes. And then I arrived there, and then I tried to get an Uber back home, but I thought, well, it's not going to come for ages. And I look on the app, and I look on another app as well, and because of the traffic jams, there is just nothing around, and the ones that are around are so expensive. So I decide, since I already bought a day saver, I might as well just take the bus, because if I sit in the traffic jam on the bus or in the traffic jam in an Uber, So I took the bus, and some louts on there, and so it was just one thing after another. Nothing really terrible. Like, nothing was really like, oh my God, this is so awful. But it was just like, not things. So this would not go down as a good day, right? But I also had good moments, like queuing because I popped into the Nelm to buy some Dylon, and was chatting to a lady and her daughter. Daughter is off to university in autumn, and we're talking about that. I had a really good chat, like just a nice interaction with some people. And later on, I could help my neighbors with something. And, so there were also good moments. My husband cooked a delicious meal. We had a nice conversation in the evening. Like I had a good chat with my kids. So there was also good things, And so I think it's not just about counting the good days, but it's also about counting the good moments, because I felt depleted when I got home after picking up the car once it was done. I felt absolutely depleted, like tired, exhausted, like, that kind of thing. But then I thought, well, actually, I also had good moments. Yeah, I took some great pictures in the morning, on the way to the appointment and on the way back. Certainly got my exercise in as well. So yeah, swings and roundabout. But it's true, in life you have to learn to count the good days. And quite often we focus a lot on the bad days. Then, like I would say, one of the most wise detectives out there for me has always been Miss Marple. And I remember reading Miss Marple as a young teenager and laughing a lot because I grew up in a village, and obviously she lives in a village. And some of her comments on village life and how you sort of know everything about everyone. And if you observe people in a village, you observe humanity, always rang true to me, because I've always been a watcher and an observer, and and so you would see things that others might not see. So I'm not going to give any examples, but it's just one of those things. And one of the things that I always really related to was her saying, you learn the most by listening and observing, and quite often by the divergence between what someone says and how someone acts, and the little slip-ups, because you can put on as much of a facade as you want, like people will always reveal themselves, if you're truly listening and looking and watching. So I always thought that was quite wise, and I certainly often employ that, between what are you telling me, what are you doing, where's the real person? And it's not always just a negative, like I'm autistic, so I always mask. Because my true self is, like I don't owe that to anyone. I want to go through life easily. And so masking is a very good way of, going through the world as much undetected as possible. So, like that's what you do. But obviously if someone knows me well and observes me well, they may see, that I do it. But obviously it can also be a negative, you know, like it is quite often in Miss Marple's case when people hide things and then kill people. And then the other thing that I always found was very wise, that people are essentially always the same, and that you can find the same kind of people wherever you go. If you ever read a Marple, and I'm sure most of you will have, you will know that she says, oh, this reminds me of so-and-so, and then she will recount a story from her village. And at first you think, oh, how is this related to little Johnny stealing from the greengrocer to this murder? But there's always a link. And that is very, very true. Yeah. And the other thing that I always thought was so wise about Miss Marple was even if Christie maybe didn't feel like that herself, but Miss Marple is incredibly community minded. And she's quite kind in the way she gives back. So, for example, she always has a maid that she trains from an orphanage to give them the chance at employment. And, you know, and some of the maids in later like stories might get killed or get in trouble. But they always are very fond of her because they realize that she gave them an opportunity to, you know, get like a better job than they might have done otherwise. Yeah, she's also an incredibly good friend. So I always thought that that was quite a nice bit of wisdom. Then in the Lady Sherlock series by Sherry Thomas, the series, if you haven't read it, I absolutely love it. It's basically taking Sherlock Holmes and what if Sherlock Holmes was a woman? What would have that been like? And I really identify with her because while Sherry Thomas does never say that Lady Sherlock is autistic, I'm pretty sure that Lady Sherlock is autistic, and I can relate to many of her behaviors and many of the kind of things that she sort of has to almost hide and overcome. So one of the things that I tend to do is that I can just do everything on my own, and I don't need anyone, and that is a fallacy, and that is also a little bit of the premise of this book, because when she first becomes Lady Sherlock, she thinks she can do everything on her own. She has the ambition to save her sister and to also save her other sister from the parents who are just awful. Well-to-do but a bit broke, you know, terrible, like philandering and all sorts of things, a bit of an embarrassment. And she wants to save them, and she thinks she can just do it on her own. And in that first book, she gets a lot of help that she struggles to accept, and sort of realizes that you can't do everything on your own. You need that village, you need a little bit of community, you need other people. And isn't that just true? And then last but not least is the Veronica Speedwell series. Again, it's quite a fun series set in Victorian Britain, and Veronica is a lepidopterist. I can never say that word. A butterfly hunter, and a natural scientist, and she sort of stumbles into her first case in that book. And she meets someone that she works very well with, but she is also one of those that is very self-sufficient. But she realizes that a partnership, like being in a partnership with another person, means that it's a give and take, that you can't just show up and take when you need it and then move on. That sometimes when you make that kind of investment, you also need to invest yourself as well. So that's all very wise. What I would like to know is if you've ever read a mystery novel and thought, oh, there's some piece of wisdom, or other unlikely places where you have come across wisdom that made you go yeah, that's true, that's actually wise. I would love to know, so leave a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later this week, hopefully. Bye-bye.